All right, so this PowerPoint is going to cover the preterite or el pretérito, which is the one of two of the Spanish past tense. So as I start this out, what I want to explain is that, yes, in Spanish, there are two different ways to say I went or I had or I saw. Okay, so we have two Spanish past tenses. So el pretérito is the past tense that is going to be used to describe actions that have a clear ending, a clear beginning and a clear end. So you can pinpoint the action in a certain period of time. For example, yesterday I watched all of the episodes of The Office. You can pinpoint that and say that you did it yesterday and it happened that one period of time and it ended after yesterday. So the preterite is going to get used when you are able to state something that clearly happened in the past and it happened maybe once or twice, or it maybe happened several times, but it ended at a particular point in time. So you can clearly state the beginning and clearly state the end of the action. Where the imperfect is going to be more general. So maybe you did it all the time when you were a youngster, like you didn't, like I used to pick my nose when I was a kid. Well, that was a repetitive action, and that's probably the weirdest explanation, but hopefully you guys are understanding that the preterite is used to pinpoint an action that happened in the past, and the imperfect will get used more general. And so as you're looking at this, guys, note that the entire time that you were in Spanish 1 and the good portion of Spanish 2, we're always speaking in the here and now. So as we get into this is all things that have happened in the past. It is no longer happening. It's past events. With the preterite is going to come new endings. So remember, all verbs in Spanish either end in AR, IR, or ER. So for your AR verbs, all right, so the process of conjugating a verb in the past tense is going to be very similar to that of the present tense, where again, your verbs, you still have a stem and then you have the verb ending. Okay, so the process of conjugating the verbs are the same. And while they are the same, and you have in the preterite, you have regular verbs, you have irregular third person, and then you have stem changers. So you have all of these verbs that do like they did in the present tense. They're just now being used to state events that have happened in the past. So the process is the same. And if you look at an AR verb, here are your new endings. So yes, you have new endings for AR verbs where you had before the o, as, a, amos, ais, an. Now you have con un tilde, with an accent mark, aste, o con un tilde. Right, the nosotros form is amos, astéis, and aron. I would pause the video here and write this down. All right, so one of the things I wanted to point out as we're looking at the difference and some of the similarities between the conjugations is if you'll notice that in first person singular and in third person singular, so the yo form and the el form or the ella form, you're going to have what's called a tilde or an accent mark. Okay, for your regular verbs. So for your regular AR verbs, it's pretty important that you actually have this, and it's only happening in first person and third person singular. If you look where before you had it in the vosotros form, you no longer have it there, so you don't have to worry about an accent mark in the vosotros form, but you do in first person singular and third person singular, so that's pretty important. A similarity, I guess, would be the nosotros form, guys. If you look at it, it's exactly the same as it was in the present tense. Amos. So, nosotros bailamos. Nosotros bailamos ahora, right now. Or you could say ayer, yesterday, nosotros bailamos. All right, so there's a similarity. All right, so it's nice to see something that's familiar. And then everything else is it's a different ending. So guys, I understand that this is going to be a process. You spent quite a long time on regular AR verbs in Spanish 1, so it's going to take a minute to remember these endings. Just know that it's essentially the same process, just with your new endings. All right, for your ER and IR verbs, again, you're going to have the stem and the verb ending. So here's where you'll drop the ER or the IR, and you'll give it its new ending. In the first column here, nosotros, it's I, iste, yo, imos, estéis, yeron. All right, so pause the video and write this down. One of the things I wanted to point out was the use of accent marks. So, or the tilde. Notice that in first person singular and in third person singular, again, you're going to have an accent mark in the preterite. Notice that there's not one in the vosotros form, just like the AR form. So you still have to worry about accent marks, guys, and this is actually pretty important for pronunciation and making sure that you're conjugating the verb to fit the correct subject here. So make sure you note that, highlight that if you need to. Again, another similarity is the nosotros form. You have imos. One of the things I want you to write down, and I want to mention, is that in the present tense, in the here and now, when you guys would conjugate IR verbs and ER verbs, if it were an ER verb, the nosotros form and the vosotros form was different. Do you guys remember this? It was imos, or hemos, or ace, or is. Now, in the preterite, they are identical. They are exactly the same. All right. So IR verbs and ER verbs in the preterite are identical as far as endings go. So make sure you note that, and note again the use of the tilde in the first person singular and third person singular. All right, so this slide I'm going to kind of run through is essentially saying exactly what I just said in the first two slides, where you have your AR, IR, and ER verbs, that the process is the same. You drop the ending, add the new ending to fit the subject, and that IR and ER verbs are identical in the preterite. It wants you, this slide states that accent mark, or tilde, is going to be used in first person, the yo form, and third person, the el, ella, or the usted form. And I want you guys to take a look really quick at this statement here, and maybe write this example down as I'm going over it. So we have, my mom prepared a delicious dinner. Mi mamá preparó una cena deliciosa. All right, so it's a fairly simple sentence. And hopefully you guys recognize all of the words. So hopefully you've learned now in Spanish that the subject of the sentence, mi mamá, can be omitted. Hopefully you've learned that in Spanish, the subject can often be omitted, especially if this were in a paragraph talking about your mother. And that can be done because of how we conjugate our verbs. And that accent marks here are so important. All right, so if you were to omit this subject, you would be left with preparó una cena deliciosa. Now, if you were to do this, it wouldn't be incorrect. You can definitely omit the subject. But if you were to do this and leave off the accent mark, it would say preparo una cena deliciosa. If you leave that accent mark off, it's going to change the pronunciation of the word, and it will also change the meaning. Without the accent mark, it's essentially saying, I prepare a delicious dinner. So without the accent mark, this is now the yo form of preparar in the present tense. So if you guys could notice that in the present tense, sorry guys, I'm sitting here trying to, all right, so in the present tense, the yo form, it would be preparo. Yo preparo. Sorry, that should not be there. Yo preparo. All right, so you would have yo preparo una cena deliciosa. You could take out the yo, and without the, if it were, again, let me rewrite that because my hand slipped. Sorry. I am learning how to use this pen, and guys, you would think by the end of the semester I would have learned, but I have not used it that much. All right, let me try this again. Down here, it would be preparo. Yo preparo. All right, without the accent mark, it's essentially saying I prepare. You take the subject out, you can say preparo, I prepared. So essentially, guys, what I'm trying to say, and I'm not being very successful, obviously, because I'm scribbling all over this slide, but hopefully you understand that without that accent mark, it is a different form of the verb. So it's pretty essential that you add that accent mark. Hopefully that's what you got out of the last few minutes of me rambling. All right, moving on. All right, so with the preterite, you also have a set of verbs that are your car, zar, and gar verbs. I think I'm going to stop this video and essentially stop here and create another one. Discard.